This is the news on Atlantic Television Network. First, the headlines. President Buhari congratulates Governor Akeredolu following his victory at the Supreme Court. Senate asks former President Goodluck Jonathan and others to return over 600 billion naira diverted funds. Youth vow to carry on with blockade of East-West Road as protest enters fourth day. Fighting in Ethiopia spreads to Amhara region. You're watching the news on Atlantic Television Network. You're welcome. First up, the Islamic Movement of Nigeria has hailed the judgment of the Kaduna State High Court, which has charged and acquitted its leader, Ibrahim El Zakzaky, and his wife, Zinat, who had been standing trial since December 2015. A statement by the president of the IMN Media Forum, Ibrahim Musa, described the ruling as a victory for the truth and justice against what he called tyranny and impunity by the Nigerian government. The Kaduna State High Court on Wednesday discharged and acquitted the embattled IMN leader and his wife of charges bordering on culpable homicide, disruption of public peace, and unlawful assembly, among others, brought against them by the Kaduna State government. In the 8-hour judgment, Justice Gideon Kurada upheld the no-case submission filed by the Shiite leader and his wife. Nigerian Instagram celebrity Hush Puppy has pleaded guilty to money laundering charges in a United States court. Hush Puppy, whose real name is Ramon Abbas, was arrested along with other suspects in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, last June over defrauding someone in connection with a school financing deal worth over $1 million. Hush Puppy was then extradited to the United States of America to face charges. A statement from the U.S. Attorney General's office says his plea document reveals that he admitted to his role in the school finance scheme and other fraudulent activities, including what is known as business email compromise schemes, totaling $24 million. President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated the Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu on his victory at the Supreme Court. He also commended the judgment of the Apex Court, which upheld the re-election victory of the All Progressives Congress candidate in the October 10, 2020 polls. The president stated this in a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, on Wednesday. Recall that a 7-man panel of justices of the Supreme Court had upheld the re-election of Governor Akeredolu after hearing the appeal of Eyitayo Jegede of the People's Democratic Party. While 4 of the justices upheld his re-election, 3 others disagreed with the majority judgment, stressing that Akeredolu's candidacy in the October 10, 2020 poll was a nullity. Jegede and his party had asked the Court of Appeal in Akure, the Ondo State capital, to sack Akeredolu because his nomination form, in their opinion, was signed by sitting Governor Mai Mala Buni of Yobe State, who doubled as the acting national chairman of the All Progressives Congress. The appeal was based on the constitutional provision which forbids sitting governors from holding executive positions outside their statutory position as governors. In the meantime, the Minister of State for Labor, Festus Keyamo, has warned members of the All Progressives Congress of danger ahead after the Supreme Court judgment which affirmed the victory of the Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. The dissenting judgment, which was read by Justice Peter Odili, centered on the legitimacy of Governor Mai Mala Buni as the All Progressive Congress National Caretaker Chairman. Reacting to the victory in a statement released on Wednesday, Keyamo said the minority judgment has given implications for the ruling party. According to him, the party risks being destroyed from the top to bottom by the judiciary if what the judges said is ignored. He said technical point that saved Governor Akeredolu was that Jegede failed to join Mai Mala Buni in the suit. The senior advocate of Nigeria advised the party to terminate plans to hold its ward congresses on Saturday, July 31, and reconstitute its caretaker committee to exclude those currently holding elected positions. Meanwhile, the Borno State chapter of the All Progressives Congress has opted for a consensus arrangement in the forthcoming ward congresses in the state. This decision was taken at a meeting of the party's stakeholders on Tuesday in Maiduguri, the state capital. The acting state chairman of the party, Ali Dalori, who coordinated the meeting, pledged to provide a level playing ground for all contestants. The state deputy governor, Umar Kadafor, moved the motion for the adoption of the motion for the abduction and was seconded by a former member of the House of Representatives, Abu Musa, and unanimously adopted after a voice vote was taken. After the adoption of the decision, Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum, who is the leader of the party in the state, called for strict adherence to APC rules and regulations guiding the conduct of the congresses. Nigeria Senate has demanded a refund of money totaling over 665 billion naira, allegedly diverted by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation from the Solid Mineral Development Fund and the Stabilization Fund, ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government. The Office of the Attorney General of the Federation said the beneficiaries included the Independent National Electoral Commission, the Ministry of Power, the Nigerian Army, as well as former President Goodluck Jonathan and former Vice President Namadi Sambo, amongst others. The Senate Committee on Public Accounts, which is chaired by Senator Matthew Orogide, in its report on the audit queries by the Auditor General, said the investigation showed that part of the fund was used as entitlement to Jonathan and Sambo, with about 1.5 billion naira paid on June 11, 2015. It was also found that INEC collected about 20 billion naira from the Development of Natural Resources Fund, apart from the nearly 18 billion naira allocated or collected from other sources. Moving on, a lecturer at the University of Port Harcourt and immediate past chairman of the Port Harcourt branch of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Austin Sado, says the federal government is still stalling on implementing the agreement it had with the union that led to the suspension of a strike last December. In an interview with Atlantic Television Network, Dr. Sado said ASU lecturers across the country are unhappy with the situation.
The national body has not spoken about a threat for strike, but branches are agitated. Members across the nation are agitated because almost everything that government agreed with the union leading to the suspension of that strike has not been implemented. You recall that as one of a few of the items are the release of revitalization fund. About 30 billion was agreed that government was to release that amount of money for the payment of, to be shared among the universities for revitalization. That money has not been released. The salaries, the academic component of emolument was supposed to be mainstreamed or to have been mainstreamed in the salary of members from January this year. This is July going into August. That has not happened. The renegotiation was supposed to have been concluded within 6 weeks. From January till this moment, renegotiation is not concluded, so we don't have an agreement with government with respect to the renegotiated 2009 agreement. So that hasn't also happened. The deployment of the University Transparency and Accountability Solution, which is the platform that the union created to take care of payment of salaries in the universities. It was agreed that within a space of about 2 months that the NIDA will have done the assessment or the testing of that platform to determine its suitability for the purpose of paying salaries. That has not happened again, and this is 6-7 months
Sado also reacted to the allegation by ASU that the federal government appointed non-graduates into the governing boards of some universities.
I'm not aware of a categorical statement with respect to that, but I think what I understood, what I heard was that it was a general comment that you are not expected to send non-graduates as members of the government.
The protest by people of Ogoni and Eleme, Nigeria's oil and gas hub of Rivers State, has entered its fourth day. The protest, which began on Monday, July 26, and has seen a total blockade of the Eleme-Onne portion of the East-West Road, is meant by the organizers to draw the attention of Nigeria's federal government to the deplorable state of the road. Our correspondent who is covering the protest reports that over 300 trucks are stranded at the refinery junction axis of the East-West Road. One of the drivers of the stranded trucks, who works with the River State Waste Management Agency, spoke to Atlantic Television Network.
What I'm seeing here now, I'm not happy because that we are not the cause of this problem. We are not the cause of this problem, and I don't know why they keep us here. We're having 5 days today. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. No food, no nothing. We are just like that, sleeping on the main road. And I don't like this type of situation. And it makes me to vex very well. And nothing I can do.
I'm not happy because since 4 days now,
my wife is calling me up to today.
there's no money to go to the home and go and see our family. So we are just stranded. There's nothing, even food that we cannot be able to afford for ourselves.
Other truck drivers complained that the protesters had forcefully deflated their vehicle tires, and the protesting youth were spotted under canopies with local musical instruments, while others were seen playing football, lawn tennis, and other sports on the expressway. It was observed that road commuters had to resort to trekking long distances due to the situation. A youth leader from the area who identified himself as Sonny spoke to Atlantic Television Network.
But we wonder why the federal government should expect this to happen for them to actually do something about it. I think it's not supposed to be done. You don't wait for people to want to force you into doing what you're supposed to do. As a federal government, this federal road, all the trucks being parked actually drive to the multinational companies in Eleme. So this is for the good of the federal government, not just for the people of Eleme.
Meanwhile, youth of Eleme and Ogoni say they will not heed to the appeal by the Minister of the Niger Delta, Godswill Akpabio, to end the blockade until the needful is done. Senator Godswill Akpabio, who was represented by his permanent secretary, Babayo Ado, at a meeting with the Ogoni ethnic nationality stakeholders, appealed to protesting Niger Delta youth to bear with the federal government. He assured that the ministry is taking adequate intervention steps to address the deplorable state of the Eleme-Onne section of the East-West Road as soon as possible. Now, speaking with Atlantic Television Network via Zoom, the Ogoni Youth Federation President, Legbosi Yamabana, accused Godswill Akpabio of failing to acknowledge the importance of fixing the road.
The minister is treating this with levity. We do not know why he should send his palm set to go and meet with our leaders. We felt he could have come down to implement our sole demand, and that is to mobilize contractors to fix this road. Unless that has been done, we will not live here. And like I said, this is the 4th day, because it is unfathomable. This road will be kept in these states, and this is the road that lays the golden egg. This road leads to the refinery, the Port Harcourt refinery, and our people have undergone serious, untold hardship.
The River State Executive Council has appointed or approved a proposed bill that will give legal backing to the ban on open grazing or open rearing and grazing of livestock in River State. The endorsement was made at its meeting at Government House, Port Harcourt, on Wednesday, presided over by Governor Nyesom Wike. The Attorney General of the Federation of the State and Commissioner of Justice Zacchaeus Adango spoke to journalists after the meeting.
That bill came up before council for deliberation, and after exhaustive deliberation and discussion of the highlights of that bill, the same was approved by council for onward transmission to the Rivers State House of Assembly for necessary legislative action. Now, that bill, when passed into law, will criminalize, prohibit open rearing or grazing of livestock in Rivers State. Now, in summary, once that bill is passed, no person will be allowed to openly graze livestock in Rivers State. So any person who, after the passage of this bill into law, openly grazes cattle in Rivers State will find himself within the warm embrace of the law.
That was the Honorable Commissioner and Attorney General for Justice in Rivers State, Zaccheaus Adango. He also said the council approved a proposed Rivers State Residents Registration Agency bill that would make it mandatory for residents of the state to be registered, including any visitor staying in the state beyond 2 weeks.
Of course, you know that government requires a lot of information and data for planning, either in the phase of security, economy, social activities, and so on. And so we thought that it is necessary for Rivers State government to have a bill that will require mandatory registration of residents in Rivers State. In other words, that bill makes provision for the mandatory registration by every person who lives and does business in Rivers State. Now, that bill is going to establish an agency that will superintend the implementation of the provisions of that bill. So if you come to Rivers State and you are going to stay in the state for a period of more than 2 weeks, you will be bound.
Also speaking, the Rivers State Commissioner for Agriculture, Fred Paco, said the council approved the construction of a modern abattoir at Ungbo Shimini in Rumilumini, Obiapo local government area of the state.
The Rivers State government, in this executive council meeting today, decided and approved the construction of a modern abattoir at Ungbo Shimini in Rumilumini. And the modern abattoir is going to be fully automated to be able to meet up with the needs of our state in line with getting proper meat. And this abattoir is situated on a 21 plot of land. It is by the seashore, so that people who are coming from riverine areas can also come in to get the meat from the abattoir. There will be land protection, seashore, and it is going to accommodate an administrative block. It is fully mechanized with warehouses and a mini market, a wastewater treatment plant, 2 secure lodges, a clinic and a veterinary hospital attached together, a meat processing equipment, and a shop.
You're watching the news on Atlantic Television Network. Still ahead, the federal government warns of devastating floods starting from August. Details when we return. Once again, you're watching the news on Atlantic Television Network. Let's take another look at the stories that we have been monitoring. President Buhari has congratulated Governor Keredolu following his victory at the Supreme Court. The Nigerian Senate has asked former President Goodluck Jonathan and others to return over 600 billion naira alleged diverted funds. And youth in Rivers State have vowed to continue with the blockade of the East-West Road as the protest has entered a 4th day. Moving on, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency has called on Nigerians to expect more devastating floods from the end of August. The Director General of the agency, Nze Clement Onyeaso, gave the warning when he spoke to journalists in Abuja on Wednesday. Onyeaso said all areas earlier identified as flood-prone this year, as well as those along the rivers Niger and Benue, will likely begin to experience more devastating flooding from the end of August to October 2020. Earlier, the agency had predicted that Lagos, Nasarawa, Anambra, Abia, Kwara, Kaduna, Rivers, Enugu, Borno, and Ondo states would witness severe flooding as a result of heavy rainfalls compounded by poor drainage system. The federal government has listed conditions that state governments must meet to become beneficiaries of the $750 million International Development Association credit facility extended to Nigeria by the World Bank for 2022. Now, this was disclosed in Abuja by the National Programs Coordinator of Fiscal Transparency, Accountability, and Sustainability Program, Stephen Okon. The first condition is that states must achieve disbursement-linked indicators by the end of this year. Okon urged the states to learn how to develop their individual citizens' accountability report and publish them on their websites before September 30, 2021, which is the deadline. The credit facility is tied to the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program, designed to strengthen states' fiscal transparency, accountability, and sustainability. Its primary goals are to help each state improve its revenue base, its fiscal efficiency in public expenditure, and reduce the debt burden. All 36 states bought into the program in 2018. Nigeria's federal government is set to release 36 billion naira to states as part of measures to curb the rising COVID-19 cases and prevent the third wave of the virus in the country. The Benue State Commissioner of Health and Human Services, Joseph Ngbea, who disclosed this in an interview, has stated that the federal government promised to release the funds before the end of this month. Ngbea also indicated that the state commissioners of health would meet next week with the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 and the Federal Ministry of Health officials. It was gathered that the meeting would, among others, map out ways to shore up testing, which according to a report dropped by 29% in the last 1 month. This came to the fore as the country recorded 404 cases on Tuesday, the highest in the last 1 month. Intense fighting is being reported in Ethiopia's Amara region. It is the latest sign that the war in Tigray is spreading to neighboring regions in that country. Officials in Amara said federal soldiers as well as Amara regional troops have been involved in the fighting against rebels of the Tigray People's Liberation Front. It comes as regions continue to mobilize forces to fight against the TPLF. Despite this, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's spokesperson said a unilateral ceasefire declared last month had not been suspended. Both the government and the TPLF have accused each other of escalating the conflict. 10 Nigerian athletes have been declared ineligible to compete in the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games. The Athletics Integrity Unit, which is an independent body created by World Athletics to manage all integrity issues, disclosed this on Wednesday. The Athletics Integrity Unit noted that 8 athletes from other countries were also declared ineligible, while 2 others were replaced prior to the submission of their entries to the World Athletics. It explained that the affected athletes who represented some Category A federations were disqualified from the final entries for the Olympic Games for failing to meet the minimum testing requirements under Rule 15 of the anti-doping rules. The draw for next year's rescheduled African Cup of Nations in Cameroon will be held on August 17. The Confederation of African Football has sent out letters to the football associations inviting them for the draw that had been due to be held on June 25. Both the finals and the draw were postponed due to the global COVID-19 pandemic. The tournament is scheduled to be held from January 9 to February 6 next year, with 24 nations set to participate. Interesting there. We all look forward to the African Cup of Nations. And that's the news for now on Atlantic Television Network. Before we go, let's take another look at the major stories. President Buhari has congratulated Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State following his victory at the Supreme Court. It brought you news that Senate has asked former President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan and others to return over 600 billion naira alleged to be diverted funds. And Rivers youth in Rivers State have vowed to carry on with the blockade of the East-West Road as their protest over the poor state of sections of that road has entered its 4th day. And fighting in Ethiopia has spread to other parts of the country, particularly the Amara region. Thanks for joining us. That's the news for now on Atlantic Television Network. I am Kofi Patel. Before we go, let's quickly remind you that you can follow us on our social media platforms where we have our program streaming live. On Facebook and YouTube, we are at Atlantic Television Network. And on Instagram, simply search for us at Atlantic TV Network. Thanks so much for your time.
We anchor the facts. Call for in-depth reportage, breaking news and in-depth interviews on a wide spectrum of topics.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport